Oh man, yeah. So welcome to the Contagious Thoughts podcast. And today, I'm actually pretty excited. Like this is pretty sick. I have guys who not only are they probably some of the most creative and inspirational people that I've met, but I have guys from a group called Mav, and we'll deep dive into that. I have Ricky and Ethan with me today. So I found the bios that they had on the website pretty cool and descriptive as to just who these guys are. So Ethan is a founder and creator of Mav. He's been working as designer for over 8 years. He's responsible for the creative and visual direction of Mav, of just the Mav brand, as well as head of directing, shooting, editing, executing all Mav and video design projects.
In a nutshell, he basically does it all.
Well, not all.
Not all.
I just want to, I want to paint the full picture of like who these guys are. And for Ricky, the reason why I disagree with what Ricky just said is because Ricky, as stated in your own bio, makes anyone look lazy. Cause like Ricky works his behind off. So
It might just be the ADHD.
bumping from one thing to the next, but he's the driving force of Mav. He keeps the brand moving forward, and he has a always on the move demeanor. He says ADHD. I say it's hard work, and it's like Energizer Bunny, like keeps going and going, keeps grinding, and he's responsible for growing the brand, reaching a larger audience. So essentially moving the whole brand forward. So I think that and I will get into this in a little bit, but I think that the way that you guys work together is imperative to what Mav is, and what the business is going to become in the future, right? So the story behind how this happened is kind of crazy when I think about it, that this could have very easily not happened. So we'll get into that in a second. But from the time that I met Ricky, actually I'll just jump into the story now. So I'm in the park and I'm contemplating whether I should start a podcast, if I should do it, how I should do it. I'm brainstorming in my head. I'm walking down a circle loop in this park, and I see a guy on a bench, and there's like something that just told me in my head, like, you should like ask this guy like what he does. Maybe there'll be some overlap, some connection. Just talk to the guy. I was like, nah, it's weird. I kept walking down the path, and I think I got like 10 or 15 steps out in front of him, and I was like, nah, I gotta turn back and ask him. I gotta turn back and just like talk to this guy. Turn around, and I was like, hey, what do you do, man? Like, he was like, yeah, like I work for like a media, like, I have my own media production company, and started getting into like all the cool like videos that he shoots and like all the work that he's been doing. And I was like, would you ever want to do a podcast together? Like, I'm starting a podcast. Like, how cool would that be? And he was down. He was like, hey, I would love to work with you. Like, hit me up. And probably a good 10 months later, I shot him a text, and here we are. And so the fact that if I didn't if I didn't turn back around, we would not be sitting here in this room recording this podcast. I think that I'll kind of back up a little bit and answer the question that I'm sure everybody is thinking, which is like, what is Mav? It's a question that I asked you guys like a couple weeks ago, and the answer kind of blew me away.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thanks for having us on. This is a really cool opportunity, and it's a first for us. We've never been on a podcast before, so it's exciting. And I'm glad that you turned around and talked to Ricky, because it's crazy, these big impacts that little teeny decisions have. But yeah, Mav is a little company that we have. It stands for Media, Art, and Video. And originally, it was kind of just a brand name to combine everything that we love to do under one thing. Focus on creativity.
Yeah.
We call ourselves a creative collective, just supporting creativity at all costs.
Yeah. That's pretty sick. Anything to add?
Basically say that we're like a network of people that do different things.
Yeah.
We all chase one thing, which is basically, creativity, working for ourselves,
Yeah.
One of the important things to start this was the idea of always be creating. I had a professor in college once tell me that, and it really stuck to me. Something that is so important to me and prevalent every day, because there's consuming and there's creating, and both are great. Both have their purposes, but the fulfillment that you can get from creating something is above all. I mean, it's satisfaction that I've never really experienced in any other area of my life. And I love doing what I'm doing, creating cool stuff that I'm happy with, that are honestly just my fullest expression. And having people enjoy that work is really like, it's almost, I feel like my purpose, and it really drives me to continue to build towards something. And that something is this company, Mav.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. But I am curious, just to kind of go back, just rewind in history. Like, how did it all start?
That's kind of a funny question. I mean, a lot of things like this happen in college, just like this. So we were all living in this dorm. It was like a tower type structure. So we all had these balconies.
When he says we, I wasn't in the picture.
Ricky
here.
actually wasn't there.
Yeah,
so
I wasn't in the picture yet.
This was me with some of my friends in college, and we were sitting on this balcony, and shooting out ideas. And I was in the design program at the time. This is Wilkes University. It's a small school in upstate Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And I loved making cool like shirt designs and posters and just graphic based art. And I wanted to kind of think of something like a brand that I could kind of call my work and to release work under. And that actually, now this is not something that we like to tell people, but MAV originally stood for Moms Against Vaping.
That's great.
Yeah, and it was something that was funny, like ironic, and something that would stick with people.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, Moms Against Vaping. Like, people are gonna be like, what is that? Is that like a real group, like a Facebook moms group, or that's hilarious. But no, it's a bunch of like street, skaters and like cool streetwear brand. And then we kind of just took that and ran. So I finished off school, I graduated, and I began getting into video. So at that point, I wasn't just doing graphic design. I was doing a lot more video-related projects. So again, finding one of my hobbies, I was seeing how I could incorporate that. And I thought Mav could be bigger than just designs and T-shirts and clothing.
Yeah.
So then I brought video into that, and I thought, this could be serious. This could be a big thing that we could, foster other creatives' ideas and to help them create, because that's what Mav's doing for me. It's helping me create. Like, I didn't want to graduate school and have this major or this degree in design and never use it or never think about it again.
Yeah.
I love to do it, but you need a reason to do some things sometimes, because you'll lose that drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that gave me this drive. So now, we're more professional than a Moms Against Vaping. We're really starting this journey, and it's really coming together, and it's been so fun. Like, I'm enjoying everything we're doing, and it sounds cliche, but it's an absolute dream job.
Yeah.
Producing some of the coolest stuff, and we're having a blast doing it.
That's pretty sweet.
I think for me, the best part is seeing it grow, because it quite literally came from nothing. I mean, seeing Ethan just kind of have some ideas on his computer and then just be like, how could I, turn this into something that's more of like a staple image or something that people see and just can't forget. And I remember I left. Everybody's hanging out in my apartment. I left to go to the gas station or something. I don't remember. And I came back and he had this image and he's like, "This is it." And I'm looking at him like, "Wow, like I think this is it."
Yeah.
This looks legit. Like, with the map symbol looking the way it does, looking like a person and meaning more than just, an image. So seeing it grow from that to what it is now is really cool because, we were in a friend's extra bedroom screen printing clothing at one point. Wow. Just kind of like just trying to make a brand, you know what I mean? Not thinking that we were going to be doing video services and website services and, all sorts of different services for people.
Yeah. And I just want to say, like, Ricky was the first person that I told about this idea. He was the first person that kind of saw the potential that I saw. Yeah. And he, from the get-go, was as committed as he is today. That day that I made our logo was probably one of the first or second days that we ever put our brains together on Mav. And then from that point on, we were doing everything we could. We started with a very basic website that we could put our shirts up there. We wanted to just sell some shirts and to build the brand's name and to build an audience. And like you said, we were screen printing in a small apartment. And it was just, crazy late nights and running around like literal chickens with their heads cut off. We didn't have direction, but we had all this really great potential and talent and drive. But like anything, it took us a while to focus in. And I think now, oh gosh, every week, I feel like we dial further into our mission and our brand and goals. And, it's just been so fun.
So was this your first business that you started, or did you have other businesses before this?
Yeah, I did freelance work as a designer. I've edited some things for various people, and I've done, a lot of brand identities for, various types of people. But this is my first LLC.
Yeah. Okay, same with you, Ricky. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So I'm trying to get the timeline right here, right? So, so it's Mothers Against Vaping, and at that point in time, it's you and some other buddies, right? But then somewhere along the line, Ricky gets involved.
Yeah, I want to say
it changes to music,
like 2018,
art, and video.
Media, art, and video.
Media, art, and video. Okay.
And we just changed that recently.
It was within, let's say, it was probably within the past 6 months. We even, like, up until a few weeks ago, we still had T-shirts on our website that said Moms Against Vaping with some of the original designs that we had way back. But, yeah, I think, like, Mav's evolution went, it's been going on since 2017. No, 2018.
Yeah. I'd say 2018.
Yeah, and Ricky's involvement was probably within the first year of conception.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it's really been, we've had quite the help since that initial birth, but it's really just been the core of me and Ricky really driving the main force.
Yeah. So like, when it comes to choosing a partner, like to go into business with and to pursue a dream or a vision with, that's, some people compare it to getting married, Like, I don't see any wedding rings on you guys' fingers, like, you're not married to each other, but it's like synonymous,
We've definitely had to learn to work with each other.
Yeah.
I think maybe him learning to work with me more.
It's gotten so much easier.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it was tough. I admit, like, there were times where I was like, all right, maybe how can I not? How can I get Ricky, like, out of this, Yeah. But no, he's the best partner I could ask for.
It all comes out of passion,
Yeah.
That's, like what I said before. The number one aspect I'm looking for in a partner is, do they share that passion? Do they have that same spark in their eye, or do they... wake up in the morning thinking about new ideas or go to bed at night, thinking about Mav, because it's got to be your breath, everything.
Yeah. So what was that inception like? So you guys were going to school together. You guys were already.
I didn't even go to school.
You didn't go to that same school.
Mm-mm. Didn't go to school.
All right, so you got to walk me through that
Graduated
story.
high school.
Like how you guys.
We had a mutual friend back in high school.
Well, yeah.
You went from having a mutual friend to somehow going into business together. So like you got to walk me through that story.
Yeah, I met him like my senior year of high school, and then we were just kind of friends through like the early years of college. And then he lived like a mile away from my parents' house. So whenever I was home from school, I'd be like, yo, Ricky, let's hang out. And we'd hang. And then we just became closer and closer friends. And then one of those days we were hanging out, probably over Thanksgiving or Christmas break. I was like, yo, man, like check out this idea that I kind of have like in the works. And like I said, it was probably my sophomore year or junior year of college.
So you say, check out this idea I have, and what's the response? Like, what was that for you?
At first, I was like, hey, this is really cool. This is some other graphic design thing that my graphic design friend just came up with. Thought it was cool. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. But, I think I'll tell you what got me interested.
Yeah.
Screen printing.
Okay.
The idea of screen printing.
Okay.
Because I like clothing. I like, custom clothing. I like cool clothing.
Yeah.
I like expressing, being able to express myself.
Yeah, yeah.
So having some cool clothing was really cool. You know what I mean? But once, I'll tell you what, when I saw that logo that Ethan whipped up in my apartment in Schwenksville, when I first saw that, like
Schwenksville, PA.
Shout out.
That was, there was like a spark or something. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just like a moment. Like when I saw that design, I was like we have to do something with this. And, feel fortunate enough for Ethan to let me in on it and to, let me help grow this whole math thing. Because, like I said, I just love being part of it. It's so cool to watch it grow from nothing to something.
Yeah.
So
what was that? Okay, so you see this design, right? The Mav logo, and you're like, oh, there's something there. Mm-hmm. Like that. There's something really special here.
Right.
Oh, go ahead.
Part of it was, I think it reminded me of like the skateboarding scene, like like the hardcore, like street, whatever style. And I grew up, in Allentown. Grew up around people who skate. Grew up biking.
You grew up in
I
Allentown.
love all that. Yeah.
Nice.
So I kind of had like a personal, like, I don't want to say attachment, but personal, like, yo, like this is like some street, like this is cool. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah.
That's sick. And so then, all right, so he has this spark, this moment. When was it for you where you were like, hey, I could work with this guy?
I guess it was it was kind of instantly, because he was the first person that shared my excitement.
I see.
I mean, being young like that, like 19, 20, everyone's got ideas. Like that is like idea central for the development of the brain.
Yeah.
And a majority of those ideas are just like, they're all talk. So I totally understand when people are like hearing that, like, oh yeah, cool, that sounds awesome. But like, I'll see what happens. I'll stand back and watch. But he was like, I'm not gonna stand back and watch. Like I'm down to see where this goes.
Yeah. That's sick.
I bought the screen printing machine. Got all the materials.
Money where your mouth is.
I was like, let's do this.
Yeah.
Because at the time, not to be like rude on them, but they're kind of just some broke college students.
I had no money at the time. Like that was another thing, a big help. Initially, Ricky was buying a lot of our initial equipment to get started.
I think for me personally, I think what made me realize like, yo, we can turn this into a business was when we were in Pottstown in that garage doing like countless days of no sleep, just in there screen printing for my full-time job doing hardscaping. My boss, he was starting a business at the time doing hardscaping and landscaping. Yeah. And he needed a design, which Ethan whipped up. And then we ended up making his shirts for him. Well, we made like, I don't know, like 24 shirts and like 12 hoodies or something.
Oh man, yeah.
One of the hardest things I've ever done in my life.
Yeah. There's 4 layers, you know, using an Amazon press that's like $130-$200.
It was our first multicolor screen print job, and we bit off way more than we could chew. Yeah. And we
got
again,
the job done though.
we had the science understood, but we didn't put it into practice. And obviously that, you know, is a lot different than theory. So gosh, we ran into so many snags.
I think we spent like 60 some hours literally just trying to figure out how to what's it called, the emulsion.
Oh yeah,
working with the photo
film emulsion.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I don't even want to say that word anymore.
There are so many aspects of the process that can go wrong, so many things, and like you run into stuff you don't even anticipate. Like we got to a point in the night where we were printing and we were, you know, on a roll and getting stuff done, but it was probably hour like 15 or 16 and we were off, you know, a few hours of sleep, and I said, like, Ricky, I physically got to go to bed. Like, I can't go anymore.
We had hammocks set up in the garage, and we were sleeping in there.
And we were like, well, we got the color mixed perfectly for this shade of green that we needed, and we can't stop now because the ink's gonna dry up. We don't have any more of it, and like we only had enough just to finish the batch. And if we had to remix paint, it would have been a disaster. So like, I don't even know how we overcame that, but we did. We got the order done.
And I see those shirts every day. And I'm like, every time I see them, I'm like, man, that's a good shirt. That's a good looking shirt.
Man,
that ink looks great.
So that was like your first like real project.
Yeah. Together. Yeah. A lot of fighting too.
Working off a generator because we didn't have power.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Like there was just like a loss of power. Like
no, like,
well, it was a garage.
It was like a $75 a month garage. Like so we were trying to like, because you know we're 20-something years old. We're broke. Yeah. So we're trying to do with what we got. So
I think we had like 2 outlets.
We were told it was electric. The electric was trash.
Yeah,
like, barely
spotty.
Worked. Yeah, spotty. So we brought this generator, which we powered a lot off that. A heat press, computers, lights.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I think we were like stealing Wi-Fi from the neighbor or something.
Just mooching off the
but like we were literally like running a clothing website off of someone else's Wi-Fi in a garage.
I didn't know that.
Sounds like the inception of Facebook or something. Like,
yeah, everything starts in a garage.
Everything, yeah. So I mean, this is your first project or undertaking together. So like, did you like learn things about the other person, like as far as like how they worked, and like any second guessing, like I don't know about this, or like.
I think I did more learning.
What did you learn in that time period?
I think I did more learning within myself.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned a lot about myself. Some, you know, learning experiences. Yeah. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about other people in the sense that like not everyone grew up the same way. Like I was fortunate to have a dad who would answer every single one of my questions, and if I didn't know how to do something, he would sit down and like teach me how to do it. And that taught me the patience to learn how to do things that were sometimes really hard to start. And one of the things that I learned about Ricky is that he loves to do things quickly and efficiently, and if it's hard,
I'd rather pay someone else to do it.
He goes, his solutions to problems are usually different than mine.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, I use that to our advantage in the sense that his brain, you know, I'm thinking this way and he's going to think that way. Yeah. And his solution might work when mine doesn't, and vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like yin and yang.
Yeah.
So any words of advice for listeners out there who are starting a business and they're picking a partner? What do you got for them?
I don't know. Maybe avoid family members because like
that's a good one.
That's a relationship. Like you have a dynamic beyond just that partnership.
Yeah,
in business. And I mean, I've heard some horror stories, but I don't know. Sharing that passion is number one. Like, would they sacrifice as much as you would?
Yeah. 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 What about you?
I don't know, man. I feel if it sounds kind of corny to say, but I feel like you just know it, you know?
Yeah.
Like in a situation, like just because we both share something that we're passionate about, like I would, not change, but like I would go about things differently, or just like I have been recently, like to learn to work with somebody. You know what I mean? Just because I want to see this thrive. You know what I mean? And I really respect him as a person, so I just learn to work with him. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's just really easy. It's not something I have to think about. We're just working together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why it's kind of hard to answer that question, because even though we've had and we will have our times, I just feel like we work really well.
Yeah. I think that you did answer it, because when people ask like for me, like my wife and I were coming up on 8 years being like married, and like we've been together, man, over 10 years at this point, like as far as like dating, engagement, all in, and some people are like, oh, well, how do you know when it's the right person? It's like, sometimes it's just intuition. Like you just know, you know? And so like, I respect that answer, because very similar on like the business partnership, whatever, like front. Sometimes you just know, like it clicks, the relationship clicks. You have, differences of opinion, and you get into arguments, but you work through it and you sort through it. And like you said, like you share the same like passion, the same drive, and honestly, when I see like good partnerships like that, like I get jealous, man, because I'm solo right now, and as far as like what I'm doing here, I mean, I just actually recently added someone to my team, which I'm really excited about.
Cool.
That announcement will be coming at some later date,
Well, congrats.
But thank you. But they're added to my team to help with some of the like editing load and all that kind of stuff, like kind of the production side of things. But as far as like having a partner where you guys are like essentially equals, and like you are the vision, the future, the driving force behind the company. Like I get jealous when I see like really good partnerships like that. So what you guys have is something special, and so there's something that Ethan, you mentioned something earlier in the conversation about like how much you loved creating things, and then like Ricky also mentioned something about like creating something from nothing. It's like it wasn't there a moment ago, and then like you created something, and then it's like there, and it's like you just brought something into existence that did not exist before you created it, and how dope that is, and there's a word that's tossed around a lot, and I'm curious how you guys define it, and it's the word creative. Like, how would you define like a creative?
That's a great question.
Your own like no wrong answers. Your own personal definition.
Yeah.
The first thing that comes to my mind is somebody who is able to basically bring something to life. Like they have an idea in their head and they're able to put it into or onto something. That way a viewer or another person can see it and take something from it. Whether it's, what that person intended for them to see or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I think that was an amazing answer, because I think the biggest thing is everyone has ideas, but what's the difference between a creative and a non-creative person is someone who executes those ideas.
Interesting. Yeah. That's really cool. Because so like for me, like this is all new for me. Like it's new, but it's not new. And what I mean by that is, growing up for me, I was always seen as more of like the sciencey like person, like, and like my sister was given more of the spotlight of like, oh, she's like the more like artsy, like creative like person, but like I was always creating stuff though. Like I was always drawing stuff. I used to write like rap songs. I write my own lyrics and stuff. I would grab my dad's like tapes, like back when like you actually used to like take tapes and stick them into the little cassette player or whatever in cars, and the CD players were like a level up from that, you know.
We're not that young. Jeez, come on. I had a 96, 92 Honda.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Like I would like take some of my dad's like tapes, you know, cassettes or whatever, like would have like just instrumentals on them, and I started like making music to these, like you know, rapping over
Little Darwin on the track.
Dude, like I had hooks, like everything, man, you know. Cool. And I love to draw. I used to love to draw cars. I actually almost went to, so I wanted to be a car designer, right? And I almost went to art school because I Googled like, car designers, like what's the path for that? And, you know, it was like, okay, I think Google spit out like, oh, you gotta, you know, you go to art school and blah, 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 blah. But my uncle was like, oh, no, you got to become an engineer so you know how the cars work, you know. And I Googled like how much each of those make, and I was like, well, the engineer that goes, like the car designer who's like an engineer and goes that route makes way more money than the art guy, so I'm just gonna go that route. But like when it comes to like what I actually learned in engineering school, it wasn't like what I actually loved about like cars and like the design, like what I actually wanted to do, you know. It was way more of like the mechanics of things and the technical side of things, you know. And I've never been like the technical expert. I'm technical, but I'm not like the expert in the room ever, really, you know. And so it's lately that I've learned to like lean into my strengths. And doing this podcast like has literally like forced me to unlock a part of me that was always there that I just never leaned into. You know, and it's like I would have never called myself a creative like a couple years ago. I saw some of my favorite rappers and different artists as like creative, stuff like that, you know. But looking back, all the signs were there. Like even in my freshman year of college, I went to Temple. I was always downtown Philly at the Art Institute. All my best friends were like these guys going to school for like graphic design, media production, whatever, you know. And like I was drawn to them because it was a part of me that was just dormant, you know. And that's actually why like I named my production company like the Sidelined Creator, because I just felt like I had like placed myself on the sidelines for my whole life pretty much. And finally I'm like, all right, coach, put me in the game. Like I'm ready. Like come on, you know. And so I love both the definitions that you guys gave, and I'm kind of curious actually, like when you first knew that like this whole creator was like a part of you. Like when did you know? Like when did that journey start for you guys?
I'm gonna let Ethan answer that because I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I don't really consider myself, and you might be like, what? But yeah. I don't really consider myself a creator. Okay. Or a creative person, and for that matter. Maybe I'm a little creative, but
yeah, you are.
Yeah, I'm creative.
You definitely are, bro.
But
okay.
I would love. So basically, what it comes down to is I would love to be artistic.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
I would love to be able to put some paint on some canvas. I would love to be able to draw. I would love to, that's what I consider like a creator, creative person. So, I'm not really capable of that because when I do start something, I get too worked up with the details and like, how am I going to draw it? What am I going to draw? Like, what are the specifics,
Yeah.
That's why I love, basically, I'm pretty good at finding the creative people.
Yeah.
And getting them together.
Yeah.
And being like, hey, let's start something.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, I feel like there's a lot of people who have a lot of creative abilities and they're not getting the spotlight they deserve.
Yeah.
So I recognize it, but I'm just not good at it.
I mean, he has something that's almost equally as important as creativity, and that's taste. Distinguishing good from bad.
Yeah.
And that everyone's taste is different, but his aligns with mine. That's it's great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But for me, I guess, freshman year, I went into college actually into computer information systems.
Interesting.
I wanted to get into IT, Well,
What?
I didn't know. I didn't want to get in IT. I just didn't know what I wanted to get into.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a professional snowboarder until I graduated high school, and then I was like, all right, let's start being realistic here, because that's not happening. I go snowboarding like 6 times a year. That's not gonna happen. But
yeah.
so I hated that. I took a the first day of college, freshman year. I had a computer science class, and it was unbelievably complex, and everyone in that class had prerequisites that I did not, and they were like, seemed like they were studying over the summer, and I was like, okay, if this is anything what college is like, I'm gonna flunk out next week. So I went to my advisor and I said, this isn't really working for me. Let's drop this class. And she goes, okay, what do you want to do about your major? Because that's a core requirement. I said, I don't know.
Of course it is.
Let's do undeclared. So I went undeclared for like 2 more semesters, and then I had a art elective, and I think it involved some Photoshop. And I had Photoshop experience in high school, just like doing funny stuff to make people laugh, but never took it seriously. And then in that class, I started to learn like the professional side of it and the full capabilities of these programs, and I could finally, for the first time, put my crazy ideas, graphic-related ideas, out onto actual, into the world that people could actually see.
Yeah.
And the satisfaction that I got from creating something was like, it was one of the highest highs I've ever experienced. Like, I'm not even, like, I feels like I'm almost on drugs when I make something that I like. It is unbelievable, and that's definitely an aspect of this journey that I chase, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome, because like I feel like when you describe what you love doing as like a drug, you know, like you get a high from it, you know.
Yeah.
And honestly, that high might just be like living life. It's like a part of like doing what you love, you know. Like we're supposed to, I believe at least, that we're supposed to live life to the fullest. I don't mean like in like a religious sense. I mean like experiencing, following our heart's desire, following whatever we feel like we intuitively are created to do, you know. And if we do that, like, that's why I'm doing this podcast, you know. Like I'm chasing a dream, you know, like for myself. And I love this, you know, and I feel like I'm living. Like right now I feel alive, you know. I feel like I'm living. I'm doing something I love. I'm building a dream that I have. I don't want to just do just like fit into the box that everyone says I'm supposed to fit into, you know. And then the whole, you know, way down my path of life towards my last day on earth, you know, I'm just miserable, wishing that I was doing something else that I actually enjoyed. So yeah, that just sounds to me like just living, like really living, like not just getting by or like getting through life, but actually living, you know. So I love that. And I have a couple so I have a question that I'll ask the easier question first, but I was scrolling through, you know, you guys' social media, just trying to get a feel for you, you know, feel for who you are. I know that social media just like the highlights, they say, but it's still, if someone takes the time to post something, they must care about it. You know, it must be somewhat important to them. So it does give you like a snapshot of like what someone is like, you know. And I saw a lot of like bikes and skateboards and stuff, which like I'll get into that later, but hopefully. But I saw a lot of nature, beaches and mountains or trails or like just nature, you know. And I'm just curious, like, Ricky, you don't consider yourself, you know, a creative, but I'm just curious either what role nature plays either in your life or what role it plays like in your creative process.
For me personally, nature played a huge role in my life just because I grew up in Allentown and I considered it, you know, like the concrete jungle.
Yeah.
So anytime I'm out anywhere that doesn't look like Allentown, you know, I feel amazing. I truly just feel I'm like, wow, this is way different than where I grew up, and I love this. You know, that's pretty much what I think every time I'm anywhere. Like that's just got a beautiful scene to it.
I believe
that's personally why I love nature so much. I just love getting away from the city.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah.
That's an interesting observation. I never really noticed nature being like an aspect of both of our profiles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never really thought about it. Hiking was always, or being outside was always a part of growing up. I've been hiking with my dad since as long as I can remember. But I don't know. I guess it was always like a release, kind of being outside. You're out of the confines of walls. Natural light, sunlight, like literally does make you feel better.
Yeah.
Vitamin D is important.
Facts.
So when you're outside, you're feeling good.
I think it's also the fact that so Ethan and I live a mile from each other, if it's that far from each other.
Yeah.
There is the state park right next to our house.
I see.
And it's kind of hard not to want to go out in nature when you got it right there.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. And we both, well, you grew up in Allentown, but I grew up like right by the park. So yeah, it was always a big part.
Is that the Nakamixon or whatever?
Green Lane.
What is it?
Green Lane Park.
Green Lane Park.
Upper Perk. Sorry.
A little shout out.
Yeah, a little shout out.
Yeah.
You said, what did you say, Quakertown or something? I don't know.
There's someone listening right now that's like,
and I'm like, no, Upper Perk.
Oh man. But yeah, so the reason why I asked that question is, one, I'm just very curious about people's creative processes, because I don't know. This is like a new, like, exploration for me. It's not new, but then it is. Like I explained in that story, and I use nature as like a recentering like tool for me. So I can't say it's like, oh, I'm gonna try to create something. Like, let me start my process by going out in nature. It's not that like planned and calculated, but definitely if I'm like foggy or like I am just going through hard stuff in life, I like to go to like a high place, like mountaintop. I mentioned hiking, there's usually, depending on what trail you're on, there's like a nice reward. Usually you get to the top and you have a cool like lookout. And I use that as like recentering myself and giving myself perspective, because me like looking down on whatever, all of creation, it gives me a completely different perspective than I had when I was on the ground. And for whatever reason, it is like magic for me. Like, it always works when I'm like struggling and I'm stuck in something. Just having that physical perspective shift helps me to like get perspective. And maybe it's like loosely a part of like my own personal like creative process, because it can just keep my head clear, where I can actually like have the space to like think of new ideas and like create and stuff like that. So my personal creative process might be a lot different from yours, Mm-hmm. Like I remember we were talking about designing like my shirts and stuff, and you looked at something and you're like, ooh, I already have some ideas. And I was like, oh, how does he do that quickly? Like,
he's not in nature.
How did he do that? He didn't climb up a tree. Like, what? And I'm just like, oh, like for me, that stuff takes longer, So I don't know. How would you describe like your creative process? Like, what is that like for you? Is it even planned or calculated? Or is it just like organic?
It changes a lot. It's developed throughout the years. It was never always like that fast, but the more I learned about the tools I used to create, the easier the ideas came, because I knew my own capabilities.
Interesting.
You could think of the craziest thing your brain is capable of thinking of, but if you can't execute it, like, how good is it? So, my creative process is trying actually not to think about the process itself, because a lot of my ideas come when I'm least expecting them. When I'm standing at a show, looking at the performer, and he says a word that reminds me of a memory I had, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that would make a cool T-shirt or something. I should make a short film about this, and I'm going to use this song, I'm going to edit, I'm going to cut right here. and then like in an actual setting, when I'm driving, I drive a lot. I go back and forth to Wilkes-Barre and Pencil or Green Lane.
Yeah.
But in the car is a great time to really, dive into some thoughts and to overanalyze and to break through, as well as the shower. The shower is a great place for me. I came up with some big ideas in the shower.
Shower is dope. Do you ever, I guess, have like creator's block or like,
All the time. Yeah, for sure. And right now I'm experiencing a terrible block. I've been editing this video that we've done. We shot these fire ploy performers.
Yeah.
It was kind of a quick shoot, meaning we didn't have much pre-production. And then that kind of like if you do not a lot of planning before in pre-production, it kind of makes post-production a lot harder.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, I can't tell you how hard of a time I have finishing this edit. I almost, it keeps me up at night, and it makes my body hurt thinking about it. And it's simple, and it's not a very hard thing to do, but I just don't know how to craft this visual narrative.
Yeah.
But you know what? The longer I have it on my plate, it's crazy. It's either maybe I get enough sleep or I have a good diet or whatever. But one day I'll just sit on my computer and log on and I'll finish it.
Yeah.
Quicker than I've ever have.
You'll be at a concert and some guy will say something and it'll make you think of how you got to cut the video.
It's all about it's about timing and biting the bullet sometimes. You avoid hard things. I avoid hard things. But when I get that project done, I know how satisfied I'm going to feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get block all the time, but that's what makes you a better creative, is overcoming that block. I mean, adversity, the work that comes out of adversity, I mean, every great artist, whether it's a director or a painter or a chef, musician, whatever, they've probably gone through some stuff that has allowed them to create.
Yeah. And so, that's actually a great, I think, like, it's going to happen, and I think for me, it's like, not being like discouraged by it, or thinking that like, oh, something's wrong with me, and I'm honestly curious the strategies you use to overcome that. Is it just working through it? Is it just giving space, like just kind of walking away from it? Yeah, let it breathe for a little bit instead of like beating your head against the desk trying to figure it out, or like it's like walking away from it, and then there's usually something that happens that triggers a thought or an idea or a concept,
Yeah, a project or something you're working on can get really stale.
Yeah.
And it sounds dumb, but I use a 20-20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes, you stare at something 20 feet away for 20 seconds. And that helps just like with an actual headache if you have one, but it also helps kind of refresh your brain a bit.
I love it.
And you can even modify that and step away for a day and come back to a project. Yeah. I can't tell you how many projects I've overcame or blocks I've overcame by taking a step back or taking a drive to Wawa and grabbing a snack and come back like that. It's amazing what your brain can do with a little refresh. Yeah. I mean, I've
been around some folks who go through whole seasons where they're just like, hey, like, I'm just in a funk. I'm in like a depression. Or I'm in just whatever it is, where it's lasting longer than a day or whatever, and there's all kind of, just having the biggest thing I think I've taken away from being around people like that is like having the patience like with yourself, to just like let yourself go through whatever season you're going through, and not like beating yourself up for like struggling with whatever you're struggling with. That could be a source or one of the things that's causing that like kind of block, very interesting.
It also helps to like have to know yourself and to know if something's distracting you and it's unrelated to your project. Like if you are worried about making rent that month, it may not be a great idea to like try to finish a project. Because like you're not going to be all there. You're not going to be able to reach your full potential.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually something I was curious about, like how, and I haven't forgot about you, Ricky, because I have a part for you too in this, and like how you balance like you mentioned, like you have to make rent, and there's like the business need of like you have a project, you have a timetable for that project, and deadlines so you have to meet, and a part of that project, it's a creative project, so you have to have good ideas, and you have to create something out of nothing. How do you balance like the creative aspect of things with like the business aspect of like deadlines, needing to get things done, needing to produce, with like giving yourself the space to create? Like, how do you balance those two things?
I mean, pressure makes diamonds. I work a lot better under pressure, so some of it's great.
Like that.
Sometimes you have to finish that project to pay rent. So that is, it all depends on the circumstance. But yeah, I mean, starting a business, especially when you're young, we did it. I want to say right in the sense that we're starting this young and we don't have a wife and kids and a house mortgage and huge payments. So our stress levels are lower than what they could be.
Sure. Yeah.
But there's stress still there. But it kind of helps us.
Yeah. I love that, man. It's a good visual. Pressure makes diamonds.
I have it written on a piece of paper on my wall.
I love that. Yeah. It's like it's a common phrase, but to apply it to this, I appreciate that. And the same question for you, Ricky. It's like there's the business side of things, of like needing to expand and grow and like move the business forward, and then there's like what I think you have a gift is like the networking side of things, which is like there's an organic aspect of that, of like meeting people, talking to people, like connect. You mentioned earlier like bringing like two creative people together in the same room to make something beautiful. How do you balance the business side of things, of like, oh, like the business needs to grow, move forward. I have certain goals and objectives, and targets, for the year or whatever it is, with like the organic nature of like networking and like organically meeting people.
So that's kind of the beautiful thing of what we've got going on. Pretty much the only thing I'm in charge of is expanding, finding people to work with. So I don't really have to, not that I don't have to, because obviously we discuss that type of stuff, regularly. But because of the type of team we have, I'm focusing more on, the organic side of things, which is really beautiful, which is great.
Yeah.
Just because I find, that's where my strengths are. You know what I mean? I'm working on what I'm best at while he's working what he's best at.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, that's a real gift, to be in a space where like you get to do what you do organically and not have to be under the, I don't know, like the pressure that kind of takes some of that organic nature away from it, Hey guys, so that actually concludes part 1 of the episode. I really hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed recording it and making it. But stay tuned for part 2, which is dropping next week. In that episode, we're going to get into why they're so passionate about using video to tell a story. We'll also get into being your authentic self to attract the right people. We actually have a surprise new segment of the show that gets into Ethan and Ricky's personal beliefs and perspectives on life, which I myself got a lot out of. And lastly, we're going to get into taking risks and stepping out of your comfort zone. And we got into a lot of other things as well. Check it out next week. Same time, same place. Now, before we get into the no regrets segment of the show, just a couple quick reminders. So this is your official invitation to join the Contagious Collective. You might be thinking to yourself, what is the Contagious Collective? That is our VIP Patreon group where you get access to the Discord community where you can ask myself questions as well as some of the guests that are on this very show, as well as future episodes. Ask them questions along with other people who are also VIP members who are on the same journey as you to make their own dreams a reality. You get access to exclusive content, insight, like solo episodes, and insight into my personal journey as an entrepreneur and creative trying to make my own dreams a reality. And we're also going to be releasing some behind-the-scenes footage and bloopers that we felt wasn't quite appropriate for some of the main platforms, all from this actual episode with Mav. All of this for $5 a month. $5 a month. And it might seem small, but believe me that $5 a month, when a bunch of you guys subscribe and join the Patreon group, it really adds up and it really helps support the podcast. And right now, we can use all the help we can get. Be sure to follow us on social media. We're on IG, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Follow us on social media for updates about new releases and upcoming collabs. And the moment you all have been waiting for, the merch is officially up and on sale. So check out the website, thecontagiousthoughtspodcast.com. And also be sure to check out Mav on social media. Show them some love as well. With that, let's transition to the no regrets segment of the show. Come on, hey. It's my show. Hey. The no regrets segment of the show is where myself and the guests have a chance to listen to the entire episode and answer the following questions. Number 1, is there anything you said that you regret saying, even if it's how you said something? And number 2, is there anything you wish you said that you didn't say? And with that, let's dive in. So, this no regrets segment is a little unique because this is like in between like a part 1 and a part 2. So it's going to be just me this time. Hopefully you're not disappointed. Hopefully you're excited, right? It's just me. And so I did a holistic no regrets segment with Mav live when we filmed the episode. So that's the reason why you get me this time. And so my answers to the 2 questions, for number 1, I actually regret saying that I was walking around the park and thinking about if I should do the podcast, because at that time, the day I met Ricky, I actually already had decided to do it. I was just processing through like exactly how I wanted to go about it and, like what my next steps were and all that. So like I said it and listening back, I was like, that's not really true. Like, I think maybe I was just nervous in the moment. I don't know. The number 2, the thing that I wish I said that I didn't say, I wish I had a better intro. And I know I said that for the intro episode, last episode, but it was just tough to go back and like re-record this intro since I recorded it live with Mav. But for part 2, because we're picking up in the middle of an episode, I'm going to do a separate intro for that. And then you guys are going to get to have a little taste of like what my standard intro is going to be like going forward. I just like to have like say my name and, give a little bit of like what this podcast is, what it's about. So I'm going to be standardizing my intros going forward. So that's probably my regret. And with that, I'll catch you guys next time on part 2 of the episode.